want to point out police inaction and that it may be a crime, and we need to seek arrests for those who fail to act. No one in government, or no corporation, no authority, no sovereign has the right to permit nor legalize an invisible electromagnetic energy trespass against your body, your children, your parents, your spouse, your pets, your plants, your property. Microwaves going into your body is an act of aggression against life itself. It is a trespass against life. A full-scale act of self-defense is reasonable against this inhumane act on a civilian population. Similarly with chemtrails. Chemtrails block the sun, affect soil, plants, pets, marine life, drinking water, the air we breathe, climate, and our families. It is also a trespass requiring self-defense. Police action is required immediately on both issues. We need to power down the towers and stop chemtrails immediately. And here you can see a picture of the cell towers and a chemtrail, both of which have to end today.
Greetings, friends. It's 2:30, and once again we have the HAARP Gwen frequencies blaring in my inner ear. It's like the sound of a transformer, a humming of an electric motor, very similar to that. And some other anomaly we have is, it could be normal, but I actually see some lininess to the background clouds here. And then we have, once again, we have a little bit of a strange anomaly here along, it looks like about, well, from my angle, it's about well, it's a white line. It's a white line. It looks from this angle, it's only like, say, a half an inch from the horizon. It's a white line, and we have a white line up in the sky here as well. And then now we've got minimal traffic, of course. There's no rain. There goes a policeman. And I have both my neighbors awake, so their lights are on in their house. 2:30. Now 2:30 once again is the time that around 3 o'clock Pacific Gas and Electric recalibrates their smart meters, and I don't know if this has anything to do with this. Last night we didn't have any HAARP frequency action. No HAARP or Gwen frequency action. When I say frequency, basically what will happen is, typically I will be awakened about this time, about 2:30, by a sort of humming sound in my inner ear. It's not an outward audible noise. It's more of a humming sound. It's like when you yawn and you hear that kind of like and just before you finish your yawn, you have that kind of like yawning sound in your ear. And actually it's almost like a pressure in your head. And you can, well, I can particularly feel it on my eardrums or my inner ear. And so what I also know is there's this thing called NETES. It's the Northwest Navy's testing and training program that's going on, and they are on record as saying they're going to be testing and training weapons. And you know, weapons nowadays can be just about anything, and unless the public knows and disagrees, then they're basically a willing participant in their experiments or testing and training. So also, this particular time of night is the time in your whatever circadian rhythm, the hourly point where certain bodily functions happen, particularly the liver is cleansing, goes through a cleansing cycle about 3 o'clock a.m. And so it's probably about 3 o'clock right now. So basically, if your liver is unable to rest and cleanse the body, then you're going to have things floating around in your body that you probably wouldn't want to have. Although the human liver probably could not adapt to the type of things that the military could develop. And what I mean is that the nanotechnology and or scientific technology to develop weapons, the human body basically cannot adapt to such technology very well. The only way possibly, I think, is that if your awareness was aware of it. So that would be just a small part of it, because most of sort of normal immune system adaptation is subconscious. So you'd have to put your conscious awareness into your immune system to adapt to this type of new technology that science or the military industrial complex is developing. And actually, I'm getting a pretty sharp headache right now. It's I have a Sony camera. It's not. There goes a truckload of fertilizer. This Sony camera, I was hoping that I could maybe capture some of the frequency, because the Sony has a pretty good audio system. But here once again we have a tower. This tower here, it's straight ahead. You can't see it. It doesn't have any lights on it. This is the U.S. cellular tower over near the Suddenlink office. So this is most likely, this tower's shared by U.S. Cellular and Suddenlink. Now we're starting to get increased traffic all of a sudden. When I first came out here, we hardly had any traffic, and now the traffic is starting to increase. I'm going to walk down the street here and see if there's anybody else who is awake at this point in time. For me, it's sort of hard to sleep, and since I started making these videos, I wanted to be a little bit investigative and report this to the general public. And once again, we know on record that the Navy has admitted to testing and training the military forces on weapons. So basically, we have weapons testing and training going on, and I believe it could be frequency, brainwave manipulation, and basically there are 20 to 30 years ahead of what they want the public to know about. So use your imagination. There's plenty of information out there on gang stalking, radio frequency, brainwave interference, and so this, I believe, is going on at this point in time. Okay, so let's go out on the street and see if we see anybody else that's awake. Okay, so basically, we actually do have some sort of scalar cloud formations happening here right now. And one thing that was probably a little strange is that my cat was like not in her little house and was up, out, basically staring me in the face when I came around to check on her. And so here we don't actually see many lights on in the neighborhood, and that's good, because it's probably not affecting everyone. Now, my friend, he has the sleep apnea. Now, I have a theory about the sleep apnea. Basically, what happens is the body, now here we have, there is a police officer. Now that police officer is sort of parked there, probably trying to catch a speeder, but so he's probably feeling it too. It's like a humming in the inner ear. It's like the sound of a microwave humming, basically. And it's not a external audible sound. It's an inner vibration. It's more of an inner vibration. It may also create a pressure in the brain between the ears and or a pressure on the eardrums. So I came out here to check to see if there was an abnormal amount of lights on in the houses, and I don't see any. We do have an increased amount of traffic along the highway though, and 3 o'clock on, this is Wednesday morning, and it's probably about 3:30 now. I don't know if that's normal or not, but yeah, that's my report, and I may or may not report the next time I hear this. I felt a little obligated to report it again because the last time I reported was only 2 days ago. So that's my report for today. Thanks for watching, and remember, basically, the way I see it is the validity of this is, if you look up the Navy Northwest Training and Testing Program, and you'll find information about how the Navy has planned on doing here comes the car. It's a little bit, well, you know, what's normal, what traffic is normal, I don't know, but it seems like the traffic has increased since I first came out here. But anyway, back to the Navy Northwest Training and Testing. If you look that up, you'll find information on how the Navy has planned to test weapons off our coastline and or in the environment near the coast. And so I'm going to rant on that again too. So basically, they had public meetings about this, and of course there was a fairly large turnout, and actually it was filling the capacity of the room when I was there, and you know, it was a mellow scene. There's a lot of people with, you know, smiling faces that are basically public relations people. One meeting I went there early, so I went there early so I could talk to some of the people there. I talked to 4 people over there that were representatives of the Navy, and they did not know anything about HAARP. And as a matter of fact, one of the ones who was pretty serious, stated that if I heard, he didn't know anything about HAARP, which the Navy is funded, and he says that if I heard about it on the internet, then it wasn't true. And so that reminds me, I had a friend that I talked to about this and or weather modification, solar radiation management, and the electromagnetic manipulation of the sprayed materials in the sky. And he said, yes, I've noticed that. And then I visited and probably about a week later I visited, and he said, well, yeah, that's pretty strange. I looked it up on the internet, you know, and it seems kind of like overwhelming, you know, that the government or the Navy could do these types of things without the public's consent and or informed consent. And then about a month later, I saw him, and he said, "Oh, well," I told him, I said, "Well, you know, I've presented this resolution to the some of the representatives here," and he said, "Oh, don't waste your time, because that's just a theory that doesn't exist." So, and it actually sort of scorned me about telling him. So the problem is that it's shocking. It's shocking to know that the military and or whoever, the global elite, are trying to covertly manipulate people without their knowing it. And so, in particular, if you have children, and you're sort of trying to teach them, how are you going to, project an aura of authority while there's an external force that's like beyond the law? So there's something to think about, guys. And have a happy forever.
Etc. within us. It causes damage to our bodies and the nutrients within us by vibrating water molecules and other polar molecules, ions, very rapidly. This is an inhumane act on the civilian population. We require police protection. Pull it. We need the police to pull the switch for us. So cops, power down the towers. It's inhumane to put a baby in a microwave and cook the baby. That's just nuts. But it's an inhumane act also to microwave any living being like the civilian population, which is a Section 4 violation, a crime against humanity from the Crimes Against Humanity and War Crimes Act. It's also criminal negligence in failing to protect the public, as the police duties are to protect the public and preserve peace and to prevent crime. And so, you would never want to microwave your child or anyone else. Well, that's exactly what's happening out on the streets, and even within your home from towers that are out on the streets. So putting metal in a microwave will be all kinds of problems, and we are constantly being sprayed metals down upon us, nano-sized metals, and we're breathing it in. It's in our tissues. It's spreading out. You can see the regularity of the waveform of the spray. And so chemtrails are an inhumane act on a civilian population, and we need the police to act at common law and seize suspected airports and suspected aircraft. We need the police and everyone to question the trusted first. We need to leave passengers and visitors alone and question the trusted first.